It's May 13th, 2019, and it's 9:13 p.m. Up until this point, I have been erroneously calling the endnotes footnotes, so I apologize for that. It's actually kind of important that there are two distinctions here, because the endnotes themselves do have footnotes to them, which is interesting to say the least. So it's been around 40 pages since my last update. I'm around page 120, and I stopped at 85 in the last update I gave out. So since then, a new plot line has been introduced where there are two spies, or covert political operatives, or whatever you want to call them. And I believe they're going to intersect with a character I mentioned, or neglected to mention earlier, because I wasn't sure what his importance was. And this character is the medical attaché to the Saudi Arabian prince in the book. And this medical attaché, he earlier in the book received a package with an entertainment cartridge which didn't have a name on it or anything, and he put it in out of curiosity. And since he put it in, he's been comatose or unresponsive for 2 to 3 days, and I believe this cartridge he received in the mail is James Madison's 5th attempt to make Infinite Jest the film, which I talked about in the most recent video. And the reason I believe this is because earlier in the book, I believe that they're going to intertwine, because earlier in the book, Hal was asked about his involvement in the affairs of a separatist group, which one of the spies works for. The spy that works for that group is Marath, and the group is the Wheelchair Assassins. And this spy is pretending to betray his own people to get medical help for his wife from a different group in the book, the Office of Unspecified Services. And an American character named Steepley works for them. And Marath, the Canadian spy, is talking to Steepley on page 107. And the conversation is pretty gripping. It starts off with Marath telling Steepley that the word fanatic is derived from the Latin word for temple, which means worshipper at the temple. Which means that the word fanatic means worshipper at the temple. And Steepley responds with annoyance, as if Marath likes to philosophize out loud quite frequently when they're conversing. And what Marath goes on to say really echoes David Foster Wallace's commencement speech, This is Water. Before he talks about what one is attached to in their life is their temple and the thing they worship, and therefore we should be careful about what we are attached to. And then he goes on to say that if one is a fanatic of desire or their individual sentiments, it makes them a citizen of nothing and to be alone in the world. And I wrote in the margins that to only be devoted to oneself is for all intents and purposes to embrace solipsism, which is the belief that oneself is all that can be known to exist. While one might not believe or embrace solipsism in their mind, their actions will be the same as if one did believe this, if all they do worship is themselves. And I think it's really important that Marath, the Canadian character, is telling this to the American character Steepley. And I think that the purpose of this is to convey to the reader that American culture is predominantly self-absorbed and solipsistic in the way people behave. And later on in the next 10 pages of the book, it cuts back to Hal and his peers at the tennis academy, and their conversation veers the same way. Because Hal notes that all the people at the academy, while they have camaraderie at times, they're truly deeply alone, for they're competing against each other, and their only purpose there is to be better than each other. For they have rankings, and they all know their relations to each other, and it's a constant competition. And one last thing I want to note that ties back into how the medical attaché has gone unresponsive since he started watching this cartridge that I believe to be the film Infinite Jest is that a street name for cannabis in this book is Bob Hope, which is named after the comedian. And I believe this is to play into the idea that drugs and entertainment, by and large, both serve as ways for people to quell their existential questions within themselves. and to temporarily escape reality and be lost in something that is not themselves. So until next time.